This is from Mirela in Poland. I think the strangest part isn't that people say I vanished. It's that I was still there the entire time, breathing, aging, listening to life continue without me, slowly realizing I no longer counted as someone visible. When they entered the house, everything felt overwhelming at once. Footsteps echoed too loudly. Voices blurred together. I stood completely still, not from fear, but because I no longer knew where I was allowed to exist in the open. They asked me where I had been all those years. I tried to answer, but my thoughts tangled together. How do you explain a life that happened quietly, without witnesses, where nothing dramatic happened, except time itself passing? Everyone kept calling it a disappearance. That word never felt right to me. I didn't disappear. I woke up every morning. I ate meals. I grew older. I just slowly stopped being acknowledged, until I expected nothing at all. Before everything narrowed, my life looked ordinary. I had small plans, vague dreams, and fears I assumed would disappear with time. I believed adulthood would eventually feel solid, like something that happened naturally if you waited long enough. Staying inside wasn't meant to last forever. At first, it felt temporary, even comforting. One day blended into the next. No one announced the moment when, just for now, quietly turned into this is permanent. The house slowly became my entire world. Rooms replaced streets. Windows replaced destinations. Seasons arrived as changes in light and temperature. I learned about the outside through muffled sounds, reminding me life was still happening somewhere else. My parents were always nearby, but their presence felt inconsistent, sometimes protective, sometimes distant. I struggled to understand whether they were keeping me safe or simply keeping me contained, and over time, I stopped asking which was worse. Time stopped behaving normally. Years didn't announce themselves anymore. Birthdays passed unnoticed. I forgot my exact age unless I calculated it. And even then it felt like I was guessing facts about someone I barely recognized. What unsettled me most was how easily I adapted. Fear faded first, then anger. Eventually, even hope became exhausting. I realized I had stopped imagining escape, not because I didn't want it, but because wanting it hurt too much. My world kept shrinking until it fit inside routines. Wake up, wait, eat, sleep. I stopped measuring days by meaning and started measuring them by repetition, telling myself that surviving quietly was better than asking questions that had no safe answers. Silence became my shield. I learned which questions led nowhere and which ones created tension. So I asked fewer. Over time, not speaking felt safer than hoping, because hope required imagining a future I wasn't sure I was allowed to have. The outside world slowly turned frightening in my mind. Streets felt unpredictable. People felt overwhelming. I told myself staying inside was easier, forgetting that comfort and fear can look identical when you've lived with both for too long. I started losing track of who I was supposed to be. My age felt theoretical. My reflection felt unfamiliar. Without milestones or choices, identity thinned out, like a photograph left in the sun, still visible, but missing its original sharpness. I wouldn't say I chose this life, but I didn't fight it either. That's the part I struggle to explain. Survival doesn't always feel like bravery. Sometimes, it's just learning how not to make things worse. Cases like mine are extremely rare, but they do exist. In the United States, even in recent years, at least one confirmed case involved an adult found after being hidden inside a home for over 2 decades. Most are discovered accidentally, not intentionally. Anyway, the sounds that led to my discovery weren't dramatic, just small noises. Ordinary ones. I remember realizing something had changed and feeling panic instead of relief, because being noticed meant my quiet rules no longer protected me. Right before they found me, I stood alone in that room and tried to prepare myself. I thought about what to say, how to stand, how to exist properly. I didn't realize how much I had forgotten about being seen. When strangers finally looked at me, I felt exposed in a way I never had before. Their eyes searched for explanations, but I didn't have a story that made sense quickly. I only had years that didn't translate well into words. Leaving that room felt unreal. Crossing the threshold was harder than I expected. Freedom didn't feel like relief. It felt like weight. Suddenly, every choice mattered again. And I wasn't sure I trusted myself to choose correctly. The world outside felt unfamiliar, like it had moved on without waiting for me. Technology, language, even people's pace felt faster. I nodded a lot, pretending to understand, while quietly grieving how much I had missed without realizing it. People wanted to know who was responsible. I felt that question settle heavily on me. Blame seemed too simple. What happened lived in the space between fear, dependence, and time, a space that never fit cleanly into answers. I had to relearn simple things, making choices at a store, holding conversations, deciding when to sleep. These weren't small tasks anymore. Each one reminded me how long it had been since I was trusted with my own decisions. Strangers were curious about me, but not in a way that felt kind. I became a story before I became a person. Sometimes I wondered if being invisible again would hurt less than being known for only one chapter of my life. Shame followed me quietly. I worried people thought I allowed this to happen, that I failed myself somehow. I carried guilt that didn't fully belong to me, but also couldn't be handed back without reopening old wounds. There's a specific grief that comes from losing time, not losing people, losing years. I mourn the versions of myself that never had a chance to exist, and there's no ceremony or language for that kind of loss. Freedom asks questions I'm still learning how to answer. What do I want? Who do I trust? Every decision feels permanent, even small ones. After so many years without choice, choosing feels more frightening than staying still ever did. Sometimes I catch myself waiting for permission that no longer exists. I pause before speaking, before moving, before wanting things. Old habits linger quietly, reminding me that leaving a place doesn't mean the place leaves you. People say I was saved. I don't know if that's true. I was found, that part is certain, but healing feels slower and less visible. I'm still learning what it means to live, instead of just endure. If you're listening, and part of the story unsettled you, I understand. Maybe you felt stuck in ways others can't see. If you have advice or even questions, I'd like to hear them. And if you want more stories like this, please consider subscribing.